Good morning, everybody. I'm Fraser. I am the president of New Dominion Enterprises. And this morning, we're going to share with you our excitement about bringing to market probably one of the most important innovations in lithium batteries since the invention of the lithium battery itself. Regardless of size, shape, or function, all lithium batteries suffer from loss of power due to multiple charge and discharge cycles, and that's because of the heat that's built up inside of the battery. And sometimes, because of that heat, there's a potential of safety issues like thermal runaway that can be an explosion or fire. The last place that you want a lithium fire is in an airplane or on a spaceship or on a moon base. The problem is the electrolyte chemistry. It has nothing to do really with the battery. It's the chemistry inside the battery. It's the electrolyte. And we've solved that chemistry problem with chemistry. Our inorganic electrolytes resist heat-related and electrical-related degradation. Therefore, we reduce the loss of power and we abate the safety issues. The result is a battery that lasts longer, potentially between 30 and 50% more charge cycles. A self-extinguishing battery, because the material does that, so we have a safer cell. And we offer a pathway to increased energy density, and also a way to get to scalable energy storage and delivery of energy. We are clearly a dual-use technology. We were originally intended, as we went to market, or as we're going to market, to look at the commercial sector. We've negotiated an exclusive license from the laboratory for all of the relevant intellectual property. The company owns our own patents for follow-on products. The first product, which is an additive, was fully developed and tested. We have a manufacturer here in the United States that's ready to produce our early stage volumes, and we actually have companies ready to manufacture and requalify our material in their batteries. The data was reported in the Journal of Power Sources. If you look at our website, you can go to our website and delve more deeply into the two patents that we show here. These are both issued patents. These are the patents that we hold exclusive license to from Idaho National Laboratory. We also have two follow-on products that will come later after we've established the additive. As I mentioned, the additive is currently available and deliverable within a few months of kicking off the program. Our product actually replaces the organic electrolyte additives that battery manufacturers currently include in the battery. So we expect that our product, our inorganic electrolyte additive, will be cost neutral at worst to the battery manufacturer. The second product, as I mentioned, is a co-solvent. It replaces more of the organic material than the additive. The additive is replacing about 10%, maybe 15% of the organic material. In the co-solvent, we're replacing between 30 and 50%. The result is a reduced viscosity of the electrolyte, extended lifetime, increased safety. The work that was done at the lab brought that product to a point of having 3 candidates for the final formulation. So the work that's needed right now is to narrow that down to one winner. Phase 3 is a completely 100% inorganic replacement for organic electrolytes. We own the intellectual property for that. The research was begun, but absolutely needs to be completed. The lithium battery market is growing dramatically by over 26% compound annual growth rate per year. Our focus is on electric vehicles that include buses, cars, trucks, material handling vehicles, and so forth, as well as energy storage systems, both residential and commercial, We're also interested in microgrid technology for remote applications. Not surprisingly, our first 3 potential customers fall into those categories. We have a commitment from the Advanced Lithium Battery Center for Tesla to requalify our material. We also have 2 large format battery companies, one in the United States and one in Europe, both of which want to test our material in their transportation batteries, energy storage batteries. The company in the United States actually delivers batteries to the military. The company in Europe is involved in energy storage charging stations for electric vehicles. As a dual-use technology, it's important to recognize that this work that was done and performed by Dr. Harrop at the lab was actually performed under funding by the Department of Defense. Over $5 million of federal money went into and was invested in this product to bring it to the point where it's totally and ready for commercialization. We deliver a longer lasting and safer lithium-ion battery, and we do enable higher energy electrodes to be adopted. A couple of weeks ago, we presented at a Defense Department Encountering Innovation Conference up in Kansas. And there we started to get traction from a couple of the XCOM agencies that we're now pursuing and following up. The technology is at TRL6. The product was completed. The tests were performed with commercially produced 18650 cells. And for anybody that's not familiar with it, this is an 18650. It's a large A battery or a small D battery. We have a manufacturer in the United States ready to manufacture our first volumes. And we have 3 companies, as I said, ready to requalify this material in their batteries. So once that third-party qualification work is completed, this product will move to a TRL 7 or an 8.
So how about our testing and what are our results? First, we did accelerated thermal stability tests because what we have to do is keep the battery from getting too hot, which causes degradation of the current organic systems. As you can see on the left, under our thermal testing, very quickly, in just days, the organic electrolyte rapidly degraded, first discoloring and then turning into sort of a tar, which definitely would not leave you with a workable battery. Just by adding a few % of our new inorganic replacement, what you see is over the same time frame in a side-by-side test, by the time that the organics are completely destroyed, ours have barely even begun to discolor. We also have volatility suppression, and this is important because you don't want your electrolyte to get away. Not only does that cause safety problems and health problems, it makes your battery die really fast, and that's not good. So what we've said is just by adding a little bit of the inorganic, which has much better properties, it's no longer so easily boiled, so easily volatilized, and your battery lasts longer. One of the most important points, and it's kind of hard to get, is it increases the electrochemical window of stability. Now what this means is all batteries, when they're fully charged, they're at a very high voltage, and when they're fully discharged, well, your voltage is gone because your charge is gone. Organics have a very narrow electrochemical window of stability. That means when your battery is very, very charged, or even more importantly, very, very discharged, electrically, the organic begins to degrade, which leads to early battery deaths. Because we have a more robust inorganic system, our window is much wider, leading to much longer lifetimes and a safer operation during those charge and discharge cycles. We also improve interfacial characteristics. What does that mean? Well, pretty much what it means is the electrolyte is only one component of the battery. You've got a cathode, you've got an anode, and all the people there, they have to play nice together. We have better interfacial characteristics so that when the lithium goes from one electrode to the other, whether you're charging or discharging, they have to play nicely together. We have better wettability and better interfacial characteristics so that all of the key components of the battery do actually play on the playground really nicely. Now, for safety. What we did was propagation tests. We're specifically attaching large format batteries. So, when you think of a big battery, you don't have one cell that's big. What you do is you have a lot of these 18650s like Jay showed, is you string them together and there's many, many little players all in the large format battery. So not really if, but when one of them misbehaves, what does it do to its nearest neighbors? Well, in a conventional, very volatile, very flammable organic system, when one guy misbehaves, all of his neighbors join the party, and then you have a big fire and a big, big problem. What we do is we make sure that it does not propagate. That means when, not if, but when one battery misbehaves, all the ones that just happen to be right next to them do not play the game. I'd be glad to show this offline because these screen captures are actually parts of a movie. And what we've done is we showed that the middle cell, which we intentionally made misbehave, it catches on fire. What do its neighbors do? Well, with no additive, everybody joins the party and plays, and you have a really, really exciting fire. Now, I say exciting as a scientist, but if it was in my pocket, it would be very much less exciting. In the exact same test, with the exact same commercially produced cells, with our additive, we make the center cell misbehave. Nobody else cares. Not only do they not catch on fire, they still perform adequately. These are environmentally benign materials, and that's important because the organics are not really that friendly. Ours are completely non-toxic. Further, our entire synthetic process is green. Our only byproducts from this involved chemical synthesis are table salt and water. If it got on you, it wouldn't be a big thing. All other solvents and components of the synthetic process are completely 100% recyclable. Further, our end of life. What if somebody just tosses the battery out of a window? They're also green. It just biodegrades into beneficial products like phosphates and nitrates. Think fertilizer. What is our future vision, especially for NASA? There are beneficial properties for a confined environment such as space. They're non-flammable. They will not burn. I don't want a fire in my kitchen, much less in my spacecraft. They're non-volatile. They do not boil. I don't want to breathe it either. They're non-toxic. They're electrochemically very stable. It gives us a high voltage tolerance, and they're much more radiation resistant as they are inorganic. Now, if we're going to leave this planet and go to other celestial bodies, we've got to get through the Van Allen radiation belt. Ours are much more radiation resistant, giving you confidence that once you do put this into a space application, we're not going to tear up in the middle. Finally, since they're longer lived, we envision these powering Moonbase 1 because let's face it, if you're on the moon, your neighborhood Walmart where you buy these batteries is going to be sort of out of town.
So getting back to the business, we're in the process of raising a seed capital round of $500,000. That will enable us to actually get off the ground with our first production run of the inorganic electrolyte from our manufacturer here in the United States. It'll help us continue to deal with our expanding intellectual property portfolio, continue to allow us to work on business development, bring more companies into the fold to requalify our material in their batteries, and to transition into what will be a Series A of about $2 to $3 million. We project year one in this chart to be the year when we're actually supplying material to these companies to do preliminary testing and then to expand that testing. Year two, we shift to a pure licensing model. We're going to take the battery manufacturer, we're going to license them with the opportunity to buy the material, have the material manufactured by their chemical manufacturing company, and we're going to charge them a royalty based on the invoice amount that they get from their customers. We do see an exit strategy. Obviously, we can't predict when, but we would expect to be taken out, acquired, brought into a fold by a strategic partner or by a battery manufacturer. Our team, I have a background in strategic planning, product development. I've been involved in technology transfer from the Department of Energy Laboratories since 1991. I'm currently responsible from New Dominion for strategic partnerships and business development. Obviously, Dr. Harrop is the inventor of this material, in fact, all of the materials that we're bringing to market. We are supplemented by the fact that we are a portfolio company of the Austin Technology Incubator. They've been around for almost 30 years. Through them, we get mentorship, we get strategic advice. We have access to the IC Squared Institute. Students and members there help us with research and insight. We also have access to the McCombs Business School for additional insight and additional support. Next steps, we want to close that seed capital funding, have that third-party requalification of the additive performed, bring more companies into the fold, engage with industrial partners and customers, explore NASA battery and energy storage applications, and to work on raising the Series A round. In summary, we think that we bring to the party the pathway to the next generation improved lithium battery. And if you have any questions, we'd be very happy to answer them.
Okay, I'll go first again. You said that you had a commitment from Tesla for one to do some product testing. What exactly does that entail? What does that mean?
It will entail us delivering our additive to them at the university that's doing the research for them, and for them to put that through testing protocol that we will help them design based on what their power and performance requirements are. They are responsible to Tesla for developing the advanced battery.
Now, is that testing going to be done at their expense, or do you have an expense?
The testing is actually we're providing the material to them. The testing is being done at their expense.
And how long do you think that'll take?
It's hard to really predict that. It's being done by graduate students. It's probably going to take 3 to 4, 6 months, maybe. With the industrial partners, we'd expect that to be 6 weeks, 8 weeks to get the preliminary testing completed. And then we do expect that the companies will want to have expanded long-term testing, or at least accelerated long-term testing. Our plan is that we provide the material to our partners for the preliminary testing at our expense, and as they expand that testing, they will purchase material from us. The manufacturer that we have here in the United States is capable of producing enough volume for that expanded testing, whether it's for the 3 companies that we currently have, or whether we expand that to 5 companies or 10 companies, or to the Department of Defense or to NASA.
You said you're adding a few percent. Can you say approximately what weight percent or mole percent?
Right now, we're envisioning a weight percent of about 3 to 7% as the additive. As we move to our subsequent products, the co-solvent and eventually the replacement, the co-solvent will be about half, and the 100% replacement is going to be real close to 100%.
Okay.
The initial replacement on the additive is really a matter of the discussion that Dr. Harrop and the technical people at the customer will have based on the performance requirements of that particular power cell, and they will vary.
Because not all batteries are created equal, we have a platform that's versatile enough to address different market segments, different power requirements, all with the same inorganic replacement technology. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Question on the point you mentioned on DoD funding, you said you'd gotten about $5 million from DoD to develop some of the technology. Do you own all that IP, or do they retain some of that?
They have march-in rights under the contract that we were working with, but we do own, and especially in the commercial sector, we do own 100% of that intellectual property. And if the military shows up and wants to march in, I'm going to let them. They're the military.
We have an exclusive license from, we've negotiated the exclusive license from Idaho National Laboratory. Government, as government does, has, at least the DoD, has march-in rights. We're the commercial company, the laboratory is supporting us. So basically, we're ready to move forward.
You had mentioned that this is just one of multiple products that you guys are working on. How many other products are you trying to take to market concurrently?
Well, when we say multiple products, we have 3 products, 3 inorganic electrolyte materials in the product suite that we own the intellectual property for. So as we establish the first, which is the additive that's ready to go, hopefully then we'll be engaged in a contract with an agency, preferably, as opposed to private investment capital, to take the time and the effort to develop that second product, which I mentioned was developed to the point of having 3 candidate formulations, where the work is to optimize and determine which of those 3 or which combination of variables is the actual winning formulation for that 30 to 50% replacement.
We're very performance-driven in our development. We have candidates that we've selected due to our understanding of lithium mobility and molecular architecture consequences, and it really is a horse race. We don't care which one is the winning formulation, but we need the development and validation to make sure that what we're providing to the customer is the best thing that we've got.
Especially if you go and put one of our products into a space environment where it's very stressed. We have to ensure that the performance of the power cell, whether it's on a rover or whether it's powering inside of a space station, that the performance is exactly what the scientists on both sides, our science and the NASA science or the DoD science, intends that power source to be. So we have to optimize.
Yes, I have a question over here. Alan Ayers. I was questioning whether this electrolyte and salt combinations are compatible with all the different types of electrodes or cathodes in the lithium-ion, like manganese dioxide and cobalt-based.
Absolutely. We've tested it against a suite of potential electrodes, both anodes and cathodes. And what we found is whether you have a cobalt oxide or an NMC or some of the other higher energy electrodes that currently are not available to the market because of the failings of the organic electrolyte that we are going to replace. We've tested it and we haven't seen any problems as far as compatibility with the various anode and cathode designs.
And the second question is relative material cost. How is that compared to the current electrolytes?
Because we're replacing the organic, the cost would initially be a little higher. But since we're replacing additives that already exist, we expect it to be absolutely cost neutral in a practical battery platform.
And I'd like to add that there are some new materials for electrodes that were developed after the testing was completed. And in fact, we're now in very early stage conversations with a company that has a new type of material deposition on electrodes that have not been tested. And the discussion we're having with them is that obviously we have to go into an actual testing mode with them and replicate the work that was done on the available electrodes before. Because science does move forward. And
I can't vouch for new electrode materials that were invented after I invented this, but we're willing to test and we're very confident.
I have a question. Given that this is an emerging technology and it's funded in part by DoD, Do you envision any export control or ITAR problems?
No, we do not. We have been looking at that as we look forwards, and I don't see any problems at this point. Laws always change, culture always changes. That could be a problem going forwards, but we recognize that and we've mitigated that risk completely by making sure that we address this before it's a problem, so that it doesn't become one.
I think also perhaps the answer is that while this product, this material was developed under a classified program, the applications obviously are classified, the material is not.
Do you add extra weight when you replace this electrode?
Excuse me, I didn't catch that.
Do you add extra weight, have the weight, when you replace this electrode with inorganic materials?
We're replacing the electrolyte, not the electrodes.
No weight change? The density not changed?
Change in the weight?
Yes.
Yeah, our materials are slightly more dense than the organics because they are inorganic. They have a higher atomic and molecular mass, but the weight change is nearly insignificant.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I think we'll go that way.